it's a different case when you're not asking that out of a guy, and he could just go up and get his at-bats, and if he struggles a little bit, he's protected in the lineup. It's not all on him.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. With me, as usual, my co-host, Brian McKeon. Brian.
Stacey, the roster's rounding up.
The roster's rounding up. Christmas is in a few days. It's
all happening.
It's all happening. Before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to Locked On Yankees on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified whenever our videos go live. On today's show, it's all about the base, first base, and the first base market. Now that the Yankees got their man, what does that mean for Pete Alonso? We're going to talk about that in segment 3. Plus, the Yankees probably still need a third baseman. So what will they do and who could they be after? But first, let's discuss it. The Yankees have a new first baseman in Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, so a lot of different opinions that came through over the last couple of days on the Goldschmidt signing. General consensus. Just answer this before we really break it down. Like it or hate it? Where do you lean?
I didn't hate it until Naylor got traded to Arizona.
Okay, I can live with that. I don't think you necessarily knew a lot of what the market was. I wasn't a big fan of bringing Santana in. I didn't love the Alonso signing because I think you have enough strikeout tendency guys in your lineup, although they do have enough grounded double play guys in their lineup too, and they added another big time one too. We'll get into that with Goldschmidt.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's 1 year, $12.5 million. And I know there's a narrative out there that people hate that the Yankees keep recycling into veteran players that had a proven past, but not necessarily a great present. I understand your frustration. However, in the past, those guys were getting 3 to 5 year deals. Now they're getting 1 year deals. And you can live with a guy like Goldschmidt getting a 1 year deal because if they sign him and he's a flop by May, they can easily move on from him. And it's not $12 million to them is not a big deal over 1 year of a contract. So I don't think that it's that big of a deal. It's not that big of a risk. Right. Let's also analyze it this way. Goldschmidt had a down year last year. Very true. Absolutely. And I keep seeing this when it comes into the Arenado rumors that are tied to this. Oh, you're going to bring in Goldschmidt and Arenado. They were two guys on the Cardinals who were mediocre last year. I'm glad the Yankees are trying to recreate that narrative. Arenado and Goldschmidt were on the Cardinals who were mediocre last year, and they were asked to be the two pillars of that lineup. They're not asked to be that with the Yankees coming in here at all. Goldschmidt's going to hit in the middle to bottom part of this order. He's not going to hit third or fourth. It's a huge difference in what you're asking out of a guy. It's not remotely the same. He's going to have more protection in this lineup. You're not asking Goldschmidt to give you 100 RBIs, 30 home runs, and hit 310. You're not asking him to give you his MVP numbers. Now, in 2022, he won the MVP, Stacey. 317 batting average, 404 on base, 35 homers, 115 RBIs. Let's keep in reference, though. Those are the best numbers he by far ever had in a season. Won the MVP, had a great year. What you're getting is a guy who's going to give you professional at-bats up there. He's going to work a count. And most importantly, and you've seen them, this has been a narrative throughout the offseason, Stacey. He has won 4 Gold Gloves. He has finished in the top 5 in Gold Gloves almost every year of his career. Getting a professional, sustainable fielder at first base, I think, is more important to them. Now, he's going to give you more than Anthony Rizzo gave you in the last couple of years, but the fielding, to me, I think, is most important to them, and I think they showed you that with this signing. So I don't hate it. You can get out of it very quickly. It's a very low risk, high reward kind of signing. I think it's a great move for where they're at and for where they want to be.
Yeah. But like I said, the Naylor move kind of puzzled me because I can't believe that, first of all, it was made and that Arizona only gave them, like, the deal seemed kind of, I don't know, it seemed a little lopsided to me. And then there was news on Sunday that Nathaniel Lowe from the Rangers went to the Nats, and he was someone that was mentioned as a possibility, because there were a bunch of possibilities. It wasn't just a matter of the Yankees signing a free agent. They could have made a trade. Something could have happened, but they got Paul Goldschmidt. It's not terrible. Like you said, it's 1 year. And, he's pretty durable. That's one thing for his age, considering his age. He's 37. That's old in baseball years, especially for someone playing first base. And the only scary thing, you mentioned the grounding into double plays problem, which, the Yankees do that. So he'll fit right in there.
Yeah.
But some of his numbers have increased, like strikeout rate, and his walk rates have decreased, which is a problem. So that might be an issue, but like you said, they're not expecting him to bat after Judge in the lineup. You're not going to see Paul Goldschmidt batting fourth. So I think this might actually be a good thing for him because there's not going to be a lot of pressure on him. He's not coming in to be the star of the Yankees. He's coming in to be a serviceable first baseman.
Exactly. And I think that's the key to this because people, are citing that he was a big guy on the Cardinals and they had a really, really big down year last year, but he was asked to be their top production guy last year or their second top production guy. It's a different case when you're not asking that out of a guy and he could just go up and get his at-bats. And if he struggles a little bit, he's protected in the lineup. It's not all on him. Also, remember, his numbers weren't great last year, but he got off to a putrid start. He actually heated up a lot in the second half. So
right.
There is that too, or maybe he just got off to a horrible start and it skewed his numbers a little bit. I don't think it's that. Remember, when they got rid of Aaron Hicks, there were 3 years left on his deal at $10 million a year, and they got rid of him in June after his year was so bad. They could easily move on from Goldschmidt if they want to. I'll say this too, really good track record of health. I think they're going after a lot of that too. He hasn't since 2015. The least number of games he's played in a season is 151. That's a really, really key number. He's going to be on the field almost every single day for them. That's something you need in your lineup too. I'll say this with the other moves to the trades because I did get a little puzzled too when I saw Naylor moved. But I'll say this. The American League is extremely weak this year. Extremely weak. The Astros, I don't know. No one knows what they're doing. They're letting Bregman walk, but they sign Walker. I don't understand it at all. So that one's weird. They trade
Tucker.
They trade Tucker. So they want to be good or bad or mediocre. I don't know. There's not many good teams. There's not much competition for the Yankees when it comes to it. I think the Texas Rangers think they could have a lot more of an improved year bringing Evaldi back. Remember, you're getting a healthy Jacob deGrom back too. So I think there's that too. The Guardians, you saw them in the ALCS last year. The Central's wide open. The West is wide open. Probably the Yankees' two biggest competitors outside of their division are the Texas Rangers and the Guardians next year. I guess you could say the Astros, but hear me out. Why would the Texas Rangers and why would the Cleveland Guardians make the Yankees better? Maybe, we don't know. Maybe the Yankees kicked the tires around on Nathaniel Lowe. Maybe they kicked the tires around on Josh Naylor, and the Guardians were like, give us Dominguez. Maybe the asking price was so high because they're like, we're not going to make you better. We're not going to have we're not going to have Naylor hitting home runs off us in the ALCS. Well, send him to the Diamondbacks, who are probably going to win 75 games next year and miss the postseason. Lau, send him to the Nationals. They'll win 62 games next year, and we'll call it a day. So I think there's also motivation with a weak American League. Remember, those teams feel like they can get to the World Series next year too because you get into the postseason and they'll consider it a crapshoot. So why would they make the Yankees better? I think this might have been an option where they probably kicked the tires around on that. They saw those guys weren't available. The asking price was going to be too high. And they said, hey, Goldschmidt for 12.5 is not a crazy bad price. We can get out of it by May and search the trade market if we need to. If they're in love with Naylor or they're in love with Lau, guess what? They could cut Goldschmidt in May if he gets to an awful start, and they can go trade for Washington won't have a problem trading him. Arizona won't have a problem trading him. So it is tough at this point to analyze the roster like we are. I mean, we're going to do it obviously, but it's tough because generally the opening day roster, when does it ever look exactly like it does at the end of the year?
No, never does.
So it does leave them a little bit of openness, and you got to think maybe the price was a little too steep for them at this moment.
That could be it. I don't hate it. I don't.
No.
I know a lot of people do, but I don't hate it. It's not a terrible move. They just needed a solid, like we said, a solid first baseman who can play defense. And if he can hit a few home runs, cool.
He'll probably give you like 15 homers, 60 RBIs. And if that's what he gives you and he hits 250, I think you sign for that. I do. And if he plays Gold Glove defense, that's what he's here for. Give me average numbers and give me, because Judge is going to hit his 40 home runs. Stanton's going to, if he's healthy, he's going to hit 35 homers. That you have the offense and the power. You're not asking Goldschmidt to give you that. That's what's key to this. It feels like everyone saw the move and thought, oh, well, he's not the Goldschmidt of old. But you're not asking him to be the Goldschmidt of old. You're asking him to be a good to average player, which is what I think he is.
Right. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notifications so you know when our videos go up. You can also join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description. You'll get text from us. You can text us questions, comments, happy holiday greetings. We've gotten that already. Reactions to trades, signings. We send out lineups during the season to see how much you guys freak out, roster moves, and breaking news so you don't have to check social media. There's a 14-day free trial. Coming up next, is there a third base market for the Yankees, and what does it look like?
The NFL playoffs are almost here. You can taste it, but it's not too late to get in with the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up the W. I love betting on which players will score touchdowns and how many points each team will score. It's thrilling for me. You can get futures in, Super Bowl bets, who's going to win the conferences. Seeding is still up for grabs every single week. The games still matter this late in the season. It's why football is so great. And you can find all your bets for football on FanDuel.com. Just visit there to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks again for making Locked On Yankees your first listen, and remember that every Friday is Fan Mail Friday. You can leave questions underneath our videos during the week, or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. Those guys get top priority on Fan Mail Friday. The link is in the description. So, Stacey, I want to dive into a big name the Yankees are linked to that I think we all wish they were linked to 5 or 6 years ago, but we'll take it right now. Many reports now have Nolan Arenado linked to the Yankees because of his relationship with Goldschmidt, which I think is really key. I will say this too. There was a report earlier in the weekend or later last week. I don't know when exactly it came out, that Arenado had submitted his no trade team list, and the Yankees were one of those teams that he was refusing a trade to. Now, not a lot of sources really confirmed that reporting, so I don't know how accurate it totally is, but let's say it is true. I think Goldschmidt going to the Yankees and signing with the Yankees, by the way, it wasn't a trade. He signed with the Yankees, so he wanted to be here. And him saying to Arenado, hey, you have a chance to win here. You have a chance to get to the World Series better than any other team. Could be huge. Now, it's a little more of a risk to go after Arenado than it is Goldschmidt, but I think Arenado is still closer to the prime of his career and still a really productive player. He has 3 years, $74 million left on his deal, $24.6 a year. Now, if you take that for what Nolan Arenado is, it's a steal because Arenado's a tremendous player. And I'll recite this. There's a lot of benefits to bringing in Arenado, and let's go over them. I think you can move Jazz Chisholm back to second base, which is his natural position where he's a good fielder at. Then you have a Gold Glove infield, right? Because Volpe's won a Gold Glove. Jazz is a Gold Glove caliber second baseman. Goldschmidt is a Gold Glove caliber first baseman. Arenado is one of the greatest fielding third basemen in the history of baseball. That might sound like hyperbole. I'm sure I'll read a comment tomorrow saying it's hyperbole. However, he's won 10 Gold Gloves. He's won 6 Platinum Gloves. So I think it's hard to argue that he isn't one of the greatest fielding third basemen in the history of the sport. I think Mike Schmidt's got an argument, but I think he's one of the greatest of all time. Power numbers were down last year. He had 272 with a 325 on base, 16 homers, 71 RBIs, but he still had over a 700 OPS. I think that's really productive. He also doesn't strike out, which I think is key. If you hit him behind a guy like Stanton to kind of break up the strikeouts in the lineup, I think that would be a really good fit. He really doesn't. He strikes out under 100 times every year in his career. It's amazing how good he's been. I don't think offense is a major concern, but you got to think a player like that is going to have somewhat of a bounce back compared to what he did last year. He also came into the year hurt last year, and he missed a little bit of time, which I think, sometimes we've talked about this with pitchers. It's a little less common with hitters. But you come into the year and you're hurt, you don't get into a rhythm, and you don't get a full spring training. It takes guys a while to get a jump off, and he did start to hit a lot when it came to, July and August, but the Cardinal season was kind of over at that point. It creates a little bit of a weird thing. I want to phrase this segment by asking you this. I think you can tell where I lean of where I want them to go in the third base direction. But would you be more after him or a longer-term deal for Alex Bregman?
I would probably choose Arenado.
Really? Because of the fielding? Because of the upside? Because Bregman's an Astro?
Because of the fielding, because of the fewer years that he has left. Bregman wants like 6 or 7, which
Yeah.
I don't know if the Yankees would do that. I mean, I don't care about the whole he used to be an Astro thing. I mean,
I'd agree with you.
Everyone, well, not that it was the greatest thing ever, but when they traded for Josh Donaldson, people were worried because, Josh Donaldson opened his big mouth about Garrett Cole, and those two were fine. Like, they had a discussion, they were fine. They'd show them during games talking in the dugout, mostly Donaldson because he tended to yap. But, as much as people are against what the Astros did, a lot of the guys that were on 2017 team are not there. Judge is left.
Yeah.
That's it, right? Judge is pretty much the only one who's there. So, I mean, I wouldn't be totally opposed to Bregman, but between Arenado and Bregman, I would pick Arenado.
Bregman's 30 years old, and all reports out there that he's asking for 7 years. Now, he turned down 6 from the Astros. That means he probably wants 7, and it means there's probably a 7-year offer out there if he turned down 6 already from the Astros.
Right.
Nolan Arenado's 33 years old. So you're signing him. He's going to be there for 3 more years with you. So he's going to be 36 by the end of the deal. Bregman's going to be 37 by the end of the deal with him.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the Yankees are going to be more inclined to go out with the shorter term deal. And I don't think their numbers are going to be that different from Arenado and Bregman. I don't. And I think there's great potential. Look at Nolan Arenado's numbers offensively when he was in the middle of his prime. I mean, he was an automatic 45 and 140 every year. And I know he was playing in Colorado, so those numbers are a little skewed. But he still has tremendous power. And I'm sorry, Stacey, I'll take it a step further. Remember, the Cardinals had no one in their lineup last year. They had a terrible year. So those RBI numbers, the home run numbers aren't going to change for sure, but the RBI numbers are going to change because if you're getting up without guys on base, without guys in front of you, without traffic on the base pads, means there's less bullpen arms coming in, less starters that are struggling, less good opportunities for you to hit, less guys with you in front of you. There's a million reasons to why your RBI numbers are going to struggle. Likely, if he's on the Yankees, he's going to hit with guys on base in front of him. He's going to hit somewhere in the 3, 4, 5 hole, or probably the 4 or the 5 hole. Probably somewhere behind, in between Judge and Stanton. That's what I would guess. So 71 RBIs, I think, would go up. I do, in playing in Yankee Stadium. And, we've seen 272 is not a bad average in today's game. It's just not. And we've seen the Yankees' emphasis on wanting fielding to be a big deal. And he didn't lose a step fielding last year. His fielding is still tremendous. He's still one of the great. We can have this argument. I'm sure there will be an argument in the comments, all day tomorrow. But Arenado, statistically, awards-wise, is one of the greatest third basemen in the history of the sport. I know there's a lot of competition there, but it's the truth. So you shore up both sides of the infield. I think you have a drastically different infield next year with an Arenado signing, and I don't think it's not too much risk. It's 3 years, $24 million. Plus, we talk about this window they're in right now, right? You're trying to win with Judge. You're trying to win with Cole. Now, Judge's window is slightly longer, but not by much. And Cole's is shorter, right? I mean, Cole's got how many more years realistically does Garrett Cole have of being an ace? Like 3, 4 years potentially. That's it, of him being an elite top 3 pitcher in the game.
Probably that much.
Yeah, probably 2 to 4 years left of that level pitcher. How many years does Judge have left of hitting 45 homers a year? I mean, that's a crazy expectation even now. So, right. and I'm sure he'll do it. It's a worthy expectation. He's deserved it. But he's got 3 or 4 years left of being one of the top tier hitters in the game. These guys are all in their 30s. So I don't see the harm in acquiring a guy like Nolan Arenado on a 3-year deal. And if you're going to break it down in 3 years and you don't win a World Series in that time, he's out. He's gone. His salary's gone. I don't think it's a bad move. I think he's going to be a lot more inclined. The reports have come out that he is more inclined to drop the offer on not wanting to go to the Yankees if it was dropped. So I think this is a better move than Bregman. I don't hate the Bregman move either, but I will say this. All accounts are that the Mets are heavily in on Bregman. They love him. And the Yankees just aren't willing to get into a bidding war for a guy like Alex Bregman. I don't blame them. So if the Mets want to go out there and give Alex Bregman $250 million, go ahead. By all means. I'd rather Arenado at a cheaper price. That's just me.
Right. Speaking of the Mets, what's the market for Pete Alonso now that all these first basemen are seemingly off the board? So we're going to talk about that next.
Guys, it's the holiday season, and one of the greatest things that I love doing all year round is attending live events, but specifically during the holiday season, I've been to plenty of live events during the holiday season, indoor arena concerts, hockey games, but most importantly to me, the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, heavy metal in a holiday form. I mean, what's better than that? With Gametime, you can get the best tickets for every live event, and it's never been easier. They've got a new feature called Gametime Picks, which does all the hard work for you. Instead of searching through thousands of tickets, Gametime Picks filters out the fluff and shows you only the absolute best deals on great seats. And if that wasn't enough, they've got an all-in pricing feature. All you got to do is toggle it on, and it shows you the full price up front. There are no surprises at checkouts, no fees, no anything. All of it's at checkout. You also get seat views. So if you've never been to a venue before, you can see a panoramic view from your seat in the app so that you can decide exactly where you want to sit the night of the show. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So, Stacey, it does pertain to the Yankees, but let's go across town for a little bit. The former Mets first baseman, Pete Alonso, I think he was linked to the Yankees for a brief point in the offseason. Me personally, I didn't really believe that they were ever seriously in on him.
No.
It didn't seem like they were. Again, Boris wants to include them to drive the price up. So that was that. I don't think the Yankees were ever really that interested. But I do think Pete Alonso was sitting somewhere in his apartment in Manhattan, feeling the seams between his wallet and realizing how much can these actually stretch out in the next few months. Because I think Pete Alonso, who apparently didn't have much of a market, now has a massive market. Now I think Pete Alonso is fixing to get paid big time. All of the first basemen, for some reason on Saturday, left the market. Goldschmidt got paid. The two other guys, Lau and Naylor, got traded. You saw the Carlos Santana signing. You saw the Christian Walker signing. I think that was on Friday, right? But the Christian Walker signing got done. Everyone's gone off the market except Pete Alonso. And while there aren't a lot of teams out there making signings, there is one team with a lot of money that still does not have a first baseman, and that's the New York Mets. I think Pete Alonso, who have already flirted with the idea of bringing him back, have already decided that we love Pete Alonso. We like to have Mac at our price. But now I think it's going to be closer to Pete Alonso's price. Because now I think you approach the Mets and say, who's playing first base for you next year? Who's the guy on your roster? You're going to move Vientos over there? You're going to make Nick McNeil play there? Who's doing it? And they don't have a first baseman. They don't have the power bat in the middle of their lineup. I think Pete Alonso brilliantly pigeonholed himself.
Well, other than Soto.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Pigeonholed himself into getting a massive payday from the Mets. And I think the Mets were waiting out and thinking these guys weren't going to sign for a while. And I think the Mets held out thinking no one's going to sign. And the longer no one signs is the lower Pete Alonso's market gets. And that's not what happened. I think they underestimated the market. And I think now they need a first baseman. And it's probably going to cost them. Because now Pete's going to say, you want me? Pay up.
Yeah, I honestly didn't think all of this would be done before Christmas. Like, he's really the only major first baseman left, that on the market. And, with the trades that have happened and the signings that have happened in the last literally like 48 hours, it is surprising that I'm surprised that a lot of stuff is getting done before Christmas, because with the way that the past free agencies have gone in the last few off seasons where there were bigger free agents, it always felt like they didn't sign till later. And, at least until after the new year, or some of them didn't do anything until even spring training started, like Machado and Harper that one year. So I'm kind of surprised that all of this is happening. But yeah, like, I know you were saying a few weeks ago that you thought Alonso was going to the Cubs,
Mhm.
but I don't know. I felt like he wasn't going to leave the Mets. I felt like he, I almost felt like he was going to be left out and other teams wouldn't even bother because they figured he's probably going back to the Mets. Like, I was actually surprised when the Giants went after Aaron Judge because it was like, why are you even bothering? Like, he's not going to leave the Yankees. I never thought he was leaving the Yankees.
Yeah,
I didn't.
I'd agree with you on that. I think there was a time when I started to believe he could leave when the reports started coming out and it started going the other way, but it felt like then now looking back, it feels like that was agent work.
Yeah.
It was agents spitting nonsense to try and get the price to go up and Hal was and they knew Hal was kind of forced to pay the higher price.
Yeah.
The Alonso thing is weird because I find myself over the last couple of days feeling a little sympathetic for Alonso, mainly because Pete Alonso was told at the start of his career when he was called up around the same time Judge was, we don't care about strikeouts, strike out 230 times a year. We don't care about batting average, make it as low as you want. Give us 50 homers and 110 RBIs and we're happy. He was told that. And he comes up and he gives you that. Pretty much gives you that the last 3 or 4 years, right? His average has been down pretty much every year. His fielding is not tremendous. He's going to give you power numbers. He's certainly going to give you RBIs. And now you look at the market and they're saying, you strike out too much.
Yeah.
The home runs aren't high enough.
Right.
Your fielding's not wonderful. And he's like, well, I built my career off you guys telling me what's important and what's not important. And you guys told me all these things that I'm not good at aren't important anyway. And I do feel for him in a sense that the market has not been fair to him and what he was told that the kind of player that they want him to be. But this is the player that he is now. So I do think that's why the market's been a little slow on him. And I also think his age doesn't help. He's 30 years old. So I think he wants a longer term deal. And 30 is a weird age of baseball because you're at that age where you're 27. They're willing to give you 13 years. They're willing to sign you long term. When you're 30, no one's willing to give you a 10-year deal. 30
isn't that so strange? It's so strange. Like, what's
30,
the difference?
30 and north, the max they're willing to give you is like 5 years, and that's it. So I think he's in a weird spot. I do picture him back with the Mets though. I think it's going to be at a higher price than they were willing to pay originally. I think it's going to be like 5 years, like 125 million, because I think he's worked himself into a place now where he can go back to the Mets now and say, "Hey, baby, I'm all you got left. I'm all that's left. And
Yeah.
you need a power hitter, and you need a
It's
first
me and
baseman."
Anthony Rizzo. Choose.
Yeah, exactly. Go make your pick.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested to see if the Cubs really want him because I have heard that the Cubs are interested in him and they've been interested in him for a while. I do think he fits there very well too, but we'll see because it's a weird market for Pete Alonso, and I do think you know what you're getting from Pete Alonso. You do, but he is a kind of player. While he will give you numbers, he's the kind of player that fan bases are going to complain about, and they're going to sign him knowing what he is. His numbers will not lie to you, the kind of player he is, Stacey. But yet fans will still complain about him. Like, he is the typical Yankee where he'll come in. We would have told you on Locked On Yankees that strikes out a lot, give you home runs, no average. And then Yankee fans will still boo him. Like, as if he's not supposed to do those things. So it's going to be interesting where he winds up. Right now, I'd say Mets. But I do think it's fascinating because of all these signings. I think all of these signings potentially caught Boris very off guard.
Yeah, it's like it's the signings, it's the trades, like all these first basemen that are on the move, and it's like Pete Alonso is the last one picked in gym class.
Yeah, but it's weird. In this scenario, though, I think it benefits you to be the last one picked.
Sure.
Because now when there's teams that are desperate for first baseman and they were kind of waiting out the market, well, now they can't wait. Now there's no one else to go get. So now, who are the Mets going into next year as a first baseman now? They don't have one. So now if the Cubs get involved, if, I don't know, St. Louis gets involved, maybe they want it to get younger. All these teams that might want to get, who knows? The Angels are always good for a stupid offensive signing for a lot of money. Who knows what's going to happen? But if all these teams start getting involved because there's only one first base left in the market, now the Mets are going to be forced to pay a little more. And they have the pocketbook, we know that. But now they're going to be forced to pay a little more than they're comfortable with for their own guy. So it almost behooves you going into future years. The Mets probably should have made this move a little quicker. And they tried to smart themselves out and outsmart Pete. And it looks like Pete, by waiting, outsmarted them. It's very interesting what the Mets are doing because you make the Soto signing and everyone gave you the King of New York thing and they're taking over and all that kind of stuff. What have they really done since Soto? Like, I think the Yankees have had a far better offseason than the Mets. Far better. Not even close, in my opinion.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how much the Yankees have actually done in the offseason.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, Brian, why don't you tell people what's coming up on our next episode, which I don't think we're putting up Wednesday because Wednesday's Christmas, and who's going to listen to a podcast on Christmas? We might have to delay it till Thursday.
Sure. Not a problem. We could do that. We are going to have John Jastrzemski, JJ After Dark, whatever you want to call him. He's one of my best friends, but if you're a New York sports fan, you're definitely aware of him all over SNY. He's the really lanky kid on SNY, who's really loud and has a lot of energy. He was on FAN for like a decade. He hosts New York on Spotify right now. He's all over it. He's been everywhere. You can't miss. If you're a New York sports fan, you're aware of who JJ is at this point. One of my best friends, one of the people that is the reason why I'm in the industry to begin with. And I don't know if you've ever interacted with JJ or spoke to him before, have you? Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting. Both Stacy and JJ have very similar energy levels for reasons that don't exist to be energetic, if that makes sense. You guys have both very high energy levels when nothing's going on, which is very impressive. So it's going to be very interesting to see Stacy and JJ communicate, but to have JJ on and to talk about his career at Syracuse, his FAN career, his much covered and very public departure from WFAN. We're going to cover all of it. So you guys, if you guys like the Emmanuel one, you'll love the JJ one. So look forward to it.
Yeah, I'm thinking Thursday because Christmas, we're all going to take a day off on Christmas and actually celebrate the holidays. So let's do that. But thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gatsoulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll see you Thursday.